Don't hit me! Don't hit me! Oh,
Oh, you're called social
I've
services.
got to sit here in terror for the next 30 minutes. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear.
Oh, do stop.
Good morning, my darling.
You make altogether too much fuss.
Here she is with uncompromising views to tell you about the alternative view and some of the things that she is being bothered about. And strangely enough, is there are things which people have treated with skepticism. But her view of the WTO, for instance, has now been borne out by our own Prime Minister, who is being very careful about some of the powers that it wanted to take away from our Parliament. And if you may not always agree with Liza and her viewpoint, but take it seriously, because more often than not, she is proved to be right. All right, my darling, the floor is yours, or the screen is yours.
Well, now that I'm here, it's lovely to be here. I don't know what to talk about. I mean, there's just so much. But what I have to talk about is the most important one. Oh, there was one, though, and I mustn't forget it because I didn't write it down, Keith. In Australia, a 94-year-old lady on a Zimmer was tasered by a policeman.
Good heavens. Really?
94. She was in a rest home and she was walking on her Zimmer and she had in her hand a serrated knife. And the management of the home called the police. The police came in, asked her to drop the knife. She said no, so they tasered her.
94?
Yes.
My golly.
Wasn't that a brave man to do that? Huh?
I mean, really.
The bravery of that man, to tackle a 94-year-old woman with a knife. Oh,
Liza.
That's some sort of a man, isn't it?
What bothers me about these sort of stories is that whatever happened to common sense? 94 years of age on a Zimmer frame, and they taser a 94-year-old because of a knife. What the hell could she possibly do with it?
Exactly. I mean,
I am an absolute coward. Look, if you want to see cowardice, take a good look. And even I would have tackled her without a taser.
Oh, she shouldn't laugh. But
I mean, really,
now, I think,
common
in a
sense
coma,
seems to be disappearing.
Yes. When this came through, she was in a hospital in a coma, and they don't know whether she's going to come through or not. The shock of it,
Well, that's an awful
absolutely
story.
Terrible. And then they had the policeman there making excuses, which of course there is none whatsoever. But it goes on all the time, doesn't it? Anyway, this World Health Organization, Keith, is more frightening than we even imagined. They're cracking down on them with trying to. We had this fellow, I didn't write his name down, but he's one of us, Chop. What's his name? Chop? Is he a politician?
Who are we talking about?
Chop, his name is. I think he's a politician, an older politician, and he challenged someone from the WHO and said, we're not too sure about you lot, not in many words, but implied it, the way they talk to one another, these politicians. And he said, also, we understand that you want 5% of our health money.
Gosh, that's a new one. Yeah.
So this other chap that was there, I can't even describe him, said, well, we've got a lot of people to take care of. This money has to be distributed, all over the world. So he said, yeah, but we're not too keen on that. And you seem to have sort of a lot of power. He dismissed it. I mean, the discussion, was just, nothing. There are a couple of politicians that are bringing this stuff up because this unelected bunch of people who intend to take over the world, which has been planned for many, 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 many years. They're put in by the very wealthy people themselves, and they're put in by even wealthier people. Now, they have all this planned, like the 15-minute cities that we have been talking about, where you can't get out unless you register your car, and then you're only allowed out for 100 hours a year, which is less than 2 hours a week. All that. There's been incredible pushback, mostly in Oxford, because that's where they're trying it out, but they're planned for all over England and the rest of the world, I tell you, by this lot, this World Health Organization and the
In fairness, that's gone a bit quiet now, hasn't it?
Hmm?
The cities have gone a bit quiet.
Absolutely. And I looked.
Do you think they're paying attention to what you're saying?
I really think they are, absolutely. And
so that's a result.
It is, Keith. Silence, they will eventually open these up, I promise you, and it will be, we've had a tremendous success, but there will be very few, you see. Now, the pushback on it, I can't find it, but I know it is happening. These people are marching, and they're vandalizing them. They're knocking down the lights and all this. Good for them. And they have had to admit, especially the fellow over in Paris and the mayor of Paris who instigated this, or Carlos somebody, this guy's name, I've got it written down. It was his brainchild, these cities to begin with. Of course, he's affiliated with the WEF and all that lot. And they've put him up to it. They financed him. And the mayoress, Anna somebody, I don't know, they're in cahoots together. And both of them have admitted that people just don't understand. They think it's going to be a prison. It's difficult to get the true meaning that is for the betterment of the people, all this. He said, but I do appreciate that it is going to be more difficult than we thought it was going to be. So that says everything, doesn't it?
Well, basically, as freedom of speech and freedom of thought and freedom of will is very important, and it does seem that although I know that you're ultra concerned that the let's say the bad guys are winning, it does seem to me that those of us who are of free thinking and very supportive of free speech are beginning to have some effect. Yay or nay?
I would say yes, from what I can gather on there. And I have run across some very, very good websites that say we must hang in there because we've got a stronghold now. There are some very important, wealthy people trying to combat this. We discussed this some weeks back. You said, doesn't David Icke have, a lot of money behind him? He should have, to bring this up. I don't know what he's got. And I'm very sure these people that are trying to stop this business don't want to be named. Very, very sure. But, common sense says.
Common sense? Oh, that's a rare commodity.
Yeah, it is.
Particularly in Australia amongst the police.
Absolutely, yeah. Says that there must be some people out there who are just as afraid as you and I that these people are going to take over, and they are in a position to come back forcefully. Now then, the government, I read this story about, hardly a story, it's information about the way, you see, with this WEF lot, Keith, they're arrogant. these people are so arrogant. They're all cushy. They're in Switzerland, armies taking care of them so they can't be got at. And they've almost say we can do whatever we want. We can. Now we
Right.
have planned this and this will happen, whether you like it or not. The arrogance of these people is unbelievable. Now, then, the government now is saying, hey, we're not so certain we want to do business with you. We said we did. But they have already put this the government have already allowed for this lot to put down rules in our country. I mean, with our schools that I read out, that dreadful business of sexualizing 5-year-old children. I mean, they're already doing that. And they were told by the WHO that they've got to do it, that it's mandatory. So they have done it. Didn't these schools turn around and say, well, is the government telling us to do this or are you? Who the hell are you? No, they don't. And they just go straight ahead and do it. I don't know what sort of, it's like a hypnotic thing that these people are putting out. Like, we're already the leaders. Who are you? No, of course we're unelected. We don't have to be elected by you, scurvy lot. You'll just do as you are told. Now then, the government is now having a pushback, like CHOP with the thing, you want 5% of our money every year to come and give us orders and tell us when to shut down, when the pandemic is coming, which one is coming. I've got it written down here. I mean, you can tell from the buses and the shops that it's coming down. They're putting up all the plastic glass and everything, all that rubbish. How the government have signed up with them and Charles to begin with. I mean, how did they allow this to happen? This is, and it makes me very, very suspicious of our government
Yes.
and of our royalty to do this.
Let me ask you this, because as you know, the yin and the yang on this program is some of these things that you raise and bring to light, and my very healthy skepticism about absolutely everything. Not just you and so on. I'm skeptical about everything. I even wake up in the morning and look in the mirror, and I'm skeptical about myself. But
well, you're very wise to do that.
But one of the things that, for instance, very recently, a friend of mine retired as a senior editor on Fleet Street at one of the major newspapers, and he said one of the big worries is that, particularly in the night stuff, is that they are youngsters coming in from universities and so on, and that they are simply skimming stuff off the internet without checking and putting it out as fact, which is the basis for fake news.
Yes.
Now, in my day, as a journalist, one of the things that we had to do was to get anything that we came across that wasn't of general nature. We had to get 3 independent sources before we could say that it was a fact. They don't do that anymore, it would appear. Now, what I'm going to ask you is that some of these things that come out is when you actually source this material, I know you spend a lot of time sourcing it, how do you differentiate between fake news and what is true?
I go to the WHO and the WEF. I go to their website and it's all on there.
Right.
Everything that they intend to do and
Right.
are doing is on the website.
Right. So you actually go to source.
Hmm?
You actually go to source.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes, I do.
I mean, I want to make that clear so that
it's all there. They're not making
well
any
researched,
secret about it at all.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And another thing, with this sexualizing of children at a very, very young age, they're saying the children are sexual from the time they are born. We know this. We know this.
Yeah, well, I mean, actually, that has been in the papers for quite several years, hasn't it? It's a controversial thing.
Yes, but to sexualize a child and teach it, and I'm not even going to say what they teach it for the simple reason, if you want to find out about this, what they are having 5-year-old children practicing in school, then you're going to have to do some homework yourself, because I'm not going to tell you. It's too horrific for me to repeat.
Yeah.
And I don't intend to do it.
Now, is this, I mean,
and the whole idea of this sexualizing children as young as they are and making them very aware of themselves, very, very aware of themselves, is so that they can, and they will, and they're talking about it very, very seriously, of making pedophilia legal.
Now, who's talking about that?
The lot at the top, European Union and all that business. Yeah.
The EU are talking about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Making pedophilia legal so that anyone can walk into your home and do what they want with your child, and it's legal.
Right. Well, that is disturbing.
I think it's horrific.
Yeah. But tell me this, because just step back. 2 or 3 months ago, we looked at the issue of Catherine Stott, the professor at Brighton University, who was hounded out by the students because she was supportive of, or not supportive totally of the stance on transgender. She appeared at the Oxford Union just this past week. And thank God for common sense prevailing there. But the students, or some students, tried to stop her speaking.
Sure, yes.
Now, that to me is terrifying. That whether in fact she's right or wrong is to try and stop her speaking and taking a view.
Dreadful.
Yeah.
Dreadful. And I mean, the violence that is out there with these people. And I mean, you and I, several months ago, we discussed this transgender business where they're mutilating 12-year-old boys, cutting off their genitals. 8-year-old boys cutting the genitals off. And they say, well, it is their right. I mean, how does a human being know at 8 years of age that it wants to be pumped full of all those hormones, which drugs, which it will have to experience for the rest of its life, and turn into terrible.
Now, let me ask you this, Liza, because I as you can see, I am past childbearing age. Although there's a story.
Will you adopt?
No. Actually, there was a story this morning that some film star at 95 has just fathered a child.
Well, that's not unusual, though,
is it? Not?
Well, it's slightly unusual for a woman to give birth at 95, but it's not unheard of.
For me, at last. But quite seriously, my question is this. What I'm saying is, I'm out of touch with this sort of thing because I don't have children. Well, I mean, I have a lovely daughter. I have 2 grandsons and so on, but they're all grown up.
Yes.
I am not at primary school or even secondary school level anymore. So I don't get any reflection back.
How widespread phase of life.
How widespread is?
So am I. Yeah,
how widespread is what you're saying across the educational system?
Well, from what I gather, I think it's pretty wide.
Is it?
Oh, yes, I do.
And when you say,
and it's not just in this country.
Sorry?
It's not just in this country. I mean, this is America, and the whole thing, blimey, what they've got over there in America. I've seen some stuff on it.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely, yes.
I mean, that is very worrying indeed. But we have a Department of Education. We have a minister in charge of these things. What is the government's stance on it?
Good question, Keith. That is a very, very good question. It really is.
Well, Liza, I wonder whether it is. I mean, we are a legitimate news outlet. We're a legitimate journalistic endeavour. Perhaps what I might ask you to do is to just send an email to the Department of Education and ask them for a statement on this, so that you can come back and you can say this is what the government says.
Yes, I think that would be a good idea.
Certainly, because I mean, you're a very serious player.
Oh God, I am.
Yeah.
And in fact, Keith, I think, I mentioned on the telephone to you the depression that this caused me. I thought, I can't do this anymore. I cannot deal with this. When it's adults, I take a very, very different view of things, Keith, because I think now you're an adult, you have free choice. Well, like I don't, but you are responsible a little bit for yourself. I know people are kidnapped and terrible things happen. That's another thing. But a grown adult, okay, you want to do that, this business is yours. You must live your life the way you want. Life can be very difficult, and if this gets you through life, then obviously that is your better choice. But when it comes to kids, I'm sorry, I'm a different woman entirely. Yeah. Very, very different, Keith. That because I happen to be a woman, and I'm proud of it. Yeah.
You are a woman. Yes.
I think I am. Maybe I should go and ask someone. Do you think I should?
Well,
and woman.
I may say so, a very attractive lady.
Yeah. Thank you. And woman is the nurturer. That's what she is born for.
Right.
She's not born to go out with a bloody gun and fight in wars and things like that. Yeah. Men want to do that, let them do it.
Yeah, well, I mean...
she is the nurturer, and I think it is high time. I don't speak for other countries. Yeah. I'm a British woman, yes. And I think it is high time, Keith, the British woman started standing up and being women and saying, you got my kid in that school? Oh, are you kidding? Out. Because the only way we are going to beat this lot is women, I tell you.
Okay.
It wants every single woman in this country to stand up against this lot, and we'd have them out.
The power of women. The one thing that I really was grateful for you for saying there is if they want to go and fight wars and so on and so forth, let them. Because the one thing that we've got to be very careful in any examination of these things is that we are so dogmatic that we forget that there are 2 points of view. And much as I understand your message and what you're urging women to do, is freedom of speech, freedom of choice is vitally important in a democratic society, and for that matter, in a non-democratic society. I mean, we should be as concerned that there's no freedom of choice in China as we are, if it's here in this country.
You see, the one thing that I cannot figure out where woman is concerned, though, she gives birth in agony. She will raise that child, even if she has to go out and whore for it. She will raise that child and do the best she can possibly do. She teaches it right from wrong, to be kind, and the principles that make up a civilized life. And then when it's 18, she sticks a gun in his hand and says, go over to another country and kill someone you don't even know.
Yeah, well,
this I can't understand.
No. The anti-war thing has been as long as anybody can remember. The interesting thing is, of course, is we sit in a town where violence is our documentary. Violence has been a theme in this particular town since time began. Since Alfred the Great turned us into a town and gave us the right to be in a town. So the issue of war and sending our children off to war and so on and so forth is not a new thing. It's just somehow it never seems to have changed. I suppose there is we have. Uh, uh, I was watching something. I know my favorite program, Heartbeat.
Oh, that's a lovely, lovely
it is indeed.
series. It's gentle.
Yeah,
It's gentle.
Yeah. Now, is last night the episode they showed last night is suddenly money started to appear and sent to the man who owns the garage and told him to distribute it amongst various people. And when they actually tracked down who was sending this money, he nicked it, by the way. But there was a scene where it said, "Here is the cricket team of this village," and all 11 of them went to the First World War as a unit, and all were killed on the first day. I mean, in a nice, gentle program like that, it was very dramatic. And I mean, it hit me last night. That's the way that war was, and I'm not sure. Well, it's difficult to say because it's only let's see, 1945. It's 70 years ago, still less than 100 years ago, that we actually went through to the Second World War, and even there, young men were sent out to.
I remember it. Yeah. I was born a month before the Second World War broke out. So as a child, all I remember was war.
So actually, not much change between the First World War and the Second World War, really. Now, supposing we go to war today, okay, war is very different today with technology and so on. But do you think that we would turn around as a society and say to our young men and young women, go on, is we're going to force you to go? Do you think we've changed that much or not?
I don't think we've changed at all.
Right. Do you think that
we've just learned to kill people more efficiently and more quickly? Right. That's all. No difference.
Right.
I mean, war is big business. It makes a lot of money.
It does indeed. But
I mean, the biggest money maker in the world today is arms. The second is human trafficking, and the third is big pharma. I would think. Don't quote me on the third, but I would think that's what it is. Right. It's all money, you see.
Okay. Are there issues that you looked at this week and want to raise?
Well, what they've said is here, yes, it started. The next pandemic is here, and children are the target, says Bill Gates. Bird flu, they already have a vaccine for it, and they are preparing it. It's virtually already here. Why are they telling us about this in advance? Very interesting, isn't it?
What does Gates say? What evidence is that Gates has that the pandemic has started? The new pandemic has started.
Yes, so they'll be killing off all the birds, I should think, and anyone who's got probably anyone who's got a little bird in a cage. Got you too. You know how ruthless these people are.
Yeah, but I mean,
because after this pandemic, which was a try period to see what people would stand for and what they wouldn't stand for.
Right.
And we stood for a hell of a lot, did we ever? So they think, right, we're on to a good thing here. We've had a good practice. In we go with some more.
The pandemic has certainly changed the way that we live. That's for sure. I mean, that's absolutely evident in almost everything that we now do. It was forecast that we would, and it most certainly has. Once again, that last story that you said is Bill Gates says that we are already in a pandemic, and then are you saying he's saying we've got a vaccine for it, or others are saying?
Yeah, they've got a vaccine for it. He's on there saying it.
All right. Yeah. Okay. So that is being spread publicly.
But the bird flu will only attack children. Oh, but that will be terrible.
Why
You know?
only children?
Exactly. Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So that question has not been answered.
And it won't be.
All right. Now, one of the things that you wanted to do is once again controversial and banned from some countries, but not a disciple, but you certainly read a lot and pay attention to the David Icke Foundation and so on and so forth.
Well, I'm afraid I am a disciple. And he
right.
doesn't want disciples. He says he doesn't, but he's got one, whether he likes it or not.
But you just did want to say that there is a book, and thank
yes.
God books are not banned.
For the moment, they're not. They'll start burning them the way they did, though. The last war. That's probably even started. This is a book by a man called David Icke, who has been banned from 26 countries. Last week I said 28. Sorry, 26. I know there's going to be somebody out. You made a mistake. Come on, you know what it's all about. He has written a lot of books. I think 17 it might be mine. I think I've read pretty much all of them, some of them twice. They are an incredible education. And this man, everything that has happened over the last 2-3 years, this man was predicting 30 years ago. And every single thing he's said since I've been following him for 30 years has come to pass. Now then, this book, he's written a lot of books, and I'd be hard-pressed to say which was my favorite. But I love the title of this one. It's called Human Race, Get Off Your Knees, The Lion Sleeps No More. What a cracking title. Have a look at
Human Race, what?
Human Race, Get Off Your Knees, The Lion Sleeps No More. Isn't that a wonderful title? This book is fantastic, and it's predicted everything that we went through, the lockdowns, the whole bit. He said, this is what is going to happen. And this WEF lot, naturally, he's predicted them, and he said...
let's remind people what WEF is. It's the World Economic Forum.
World Economic Forum, and these are, and the WHO, who the World Health Organization are virtually the same, the two. They're part of this new world order. These are unelected, wealthy people who now operate out of Davos in Switzerland. They have a great deal of money themselves. They have a lot of followers who they have trained, because I was asked a question. How come they have become so successful so very, very quickly? You see, the thing is, Keith, they have been training young world leaders for the last 20 years, probably even longer. So you have this fellow up in Trudeau in Canada. He's one. Lucinda Ardern just left New Zealand. You have the lady up in Scotland who's just left now, Wee Willie Cranky or whatever they used to call her. And there are a lot of them out there that have been trained through organizations. One was called Common Purpose, where they sort of hijack people they think would be interesting, and they train them in these fames to be loyal to.
Yes. One interesting sideline is I saw the other night there is a documentary being made about Henry Kissinger.
Yeah, that's another nice one. Yeah,
who a very controversial American statesman of German origin. And the interesting thing is that he actually has been in this hotel.
Right here in
Yes,
Lewis?
he's been in this hotel because he was also a member, as I understand it, of the Headstrong Club, which is a key debating society started, or at least made famous, by Tom Paine. And there are many world leaders who, world statesmen, let's put it that way, who belong to or have belonged to the Headstrong Club. But is this documentary?
No, you've
I'm happy to
taught me
say
something there, because I've never heard of the Headstrong
Well,
Club.
there you go.
I know there are an awful lot of clubs out there,
Oh,
apart from the main ones, the Masons and the blah, 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 blah. But the Headstrong Club, I must look that up. Sorry to interrupt you, Pete.
No, it's
Sorry,
all right,
sorry.
because the Headstrong Club is, a lot of people probably don't know about it, but it was centered in this hotel, in the sheriff's room. And the rule was there is a book, and that whoever had the book in front of them had the floor. And one of the things that Tom Paine used to do is to fight people for the book, so he could have it in front of him, and he could tell everybody what the hell was going on.
That's very interesting.
But
Not a lot
I
has
believe
changed,
actually
has it?
that the Headstrong Club now is meets in the Elephant and Castle, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, really?
But
Really?
is and probably is a much watered down version from where it was. But I mean, in an interview I was just watching the other day with Cliff Ayres, who owns this hotel, and he was talking about the famous people here, and one of the people that was a member of it was Tony Benn. Do you remember Anthony Wedgwood Benn, who gave up his title to so that he could sit in Parliament?
That doesn't surprise me at all.
And he said that his voice was echoing through the corridors of this hotel. But it is interesting that those sort of organizations exist. But the only reason I mentioned it is because this documentary looks as if it is a fairly honest one, that it is saying or asking the question, was this man a saint or a devil?
Oh, he was a devil. He was a devil, a terrible man, Henry Kissinger.
Well,
terrible.
It's the documentary explores that, and sometimes you see is in saying that he's a devil, it is much. We should really examine whether that's the truth, because people can get tarred with a brush, and then it becomes fact when it's not.
Well, all I know is that Henry Kissinger is all part of this new world order and the people that I've been speaking
Right,
about.
okay. Well, there we are. There's a documentary then. You must watch that documentary.
When is it coming out?
I don't know, but now it was just the other night.
And who is making it?
Well, it's, we've got to accept is that there are people who make documentaries that aren't necessarily biased.
Yes, there are. Absolutely.
I mean, actually, we showed a documentary this morning by somebody who's totally unbiased.
Oh dear.
Oh, we've been going at 3/4 of an hour, my dear, as we always do.
There's no stopping us, is there?
There's no stopping us. But as usual, very interesting material, and you'll be back next week.
Yes, I will. Yes, indeed.
And the one thing I can say to viewers is, whether you agree with Liza or not, whether you pay attention to her or not, I can tell you that she will leave this hotel today. She will go home. She will go onto her favorite computer, and she will research everything that she raises in the program next week. It is not something that comes just off the top of her head. She does her research. So before anybody springs up and says, "Oh, how dare they say things like that on this program," is if you have got an opposite type of view, you are welcome to come on to Mirador Television. We welcome anybody with any views. The only thing that we won't have you is to do obscenity or libel. Those are the only two things that we ban. Other than that, you can say what you want. There is the invitation if you wish to do it. But I warn you, if you want to take on this lady to my right, is you had better do your research because she's done hers. Now, so that's my phone going, by the way. We don't switch our phones off in this studio because there are all sorts of other extraneous noises and sounds. That's what we're all about, inviting the people in. Anyway, we're now going to see what else we might just do for the last 10 minutes of our show time. And let's just, I know what we're going to do, is we're going to be historical again. And this was made by some people in battle in cooperation with us, all about the Battle of Hastings, because the people in battle, the town of Battle, are always very upset that it is called the Battle of Hastings, when, as they say, it is really the Battle of Battle.
My name is Alan Judd, and I'm here to introduce you to the historic market town of Battle. Battle, so named because it was the site of the famous Battle of Hastings in 1066, although it's not in Hastings. We are in fact 6 miles inland from Hastings. And what better place to start to explain the history of what happened here and why than the Battle Museum of Local History, where first of all we'll look at some of the weaponry that was used. Now, one of the most interesting exhibits in the museum, found at the site of the battle, is this axe head, verified as the kind of axe head that was certainly in use at the time. And this is what the axe head would have looked like at the time. This replica was made with the exact same techniques as would have been used in 1066. And this axe would have been used to kill men, not only men, I'm afraid horses too. The battle and the events leading up to it are very well known, and they are portrayed in the famous Bayeux tapestry, a copy of part of which is on display in the museum. The Bayeux tapestry is not the only tapestry that tells us about the Battle of Hastings, and indeed its aftermath. A much more modern one was produced recently by local volunteers and visitors to the town. That tells us about the foundation of the town from after the battle in October 1066 to the founding of St Mary's Church in 1115. This is Natasha Williams, English Heritage's property manager for properties in Sussex. She's going to tell us how the battle came to be fought here and what happened. Natasha, why here? Why was the battle fought here? Why do we have the abbey here?
The story starts with Edward the Confessor, who was king at the start of 1066. He died in January and he didn't have an heir, so it left a vacuum for the Kingdom of England. Multiple contenders who wanted the throne. This went on for pretty much the whole year and then culminated in October with the Battle of Hastings.
This is
what we term as the battlefield now. Now you've got to remember, at the time, there were no buildings here. The landscape has changed a lot, and it would have been over this whole area. The daffodils would not have been here. It wouldn't have been this bright sunny day, as obviously it was in October. So the landscape will have changed quite dramatically.
So can you tell us exactly what happened and where?
So we're now standing on what is known as Senlac Hill. This is the site of the battle, and as you can see, the slope here is very important to what happened. You can see a little bit of a slope now, but you just need to imagine it went a lot further up because they levelled off the hilltop when they built the abbey. So this is the spot that Harold chose to stand against William. William was coming from the coast, and Harold knew that he would be making his way to London. So he picked out this hillside because it was the perfect place to defend, and William had to come past it. He effectively surprised William because William didn't expect Harold to be here quite this quickly. So at the top of the hill, Harold formed his shield wall, and all he had to do was hold that shield wall until William arrived and the battle continued.
Can you tell us a little more about the shield wall, what exactly it was and how it happened?
The Saxon shield wall was a traditional Saxon tactic for warfare. They'd used it numerous times before, and it was generally very successful. They would pick their battleground, so the top of the hilltop, the Saxon army would have spread out probably about a mile long, all standing with their shields in front of them, and they formed a very formidable defence. All they had to do was stay at the top of that hill. William was at the bottom. His challenge was making his way up the hill, bearing in mind they had all their armour on, they were carrying extremely heavy weapons. It was enough of a feat just to make it to the top, let alone try and fight anyone with that wall in front of you.
Natasha, can you describe to us what happened that day in October 1066 on this spot?
You have to use your imagination. So 14th of October 1066, you had Harold's Saxon army at the top of the hill, and you had the Norman army at the bottom. Saxons with their shield wall, the Normans raring to go to come up, but it was a bit of a standstill. Etiquette of battle, who would go first? Now, one of William's jesters, a gentleman named Taillefer, rode his horse in the middle of the two lines, shouting songs, mocking the Saxons, a bit of warfare cries beforehand, and one of the Saxon army archers got a bit excited and shot him, which was effectively the start of the battle. The Normans rushed forwards. All the Saxons had to do was stand firm with their shield wall, and the Normans rushed up the hill but couldn't get anywhere. And this happened a couple of times before William realised they had to change their tactics. He came up with a plan. He got a couple of his troops to rush forwards, but then retreat, acting fearful. He did this a couple of times until the Saxons got excited. They thought that they were winning, they'd made a breakthrough. The Norman army was retreating, and they followed them down the hill, effectively breaking the shield wall. And this was the turning point for William. He was able to now come round the back of them and attack them from multiple sides. Once the shield wall had been broken, the Norman army were more powerful, they had more improved weaponry, and they hadn't just fought a battle up in York like the Saxons had. So it was only a matter of time before the battle was decided.
We can say then that it all ended here. Harold was killed. We'd have been surrounded by blood and gore and bodies and goodness knows what else at this spot.
Yes, well, should we go have a look? This is said to be the spot where Harold was killed. The high altar of the abbey was placed here specifically to commemorate that. Now, when he was killed, his body was so badly mutilated that they had to bring in his wife to identify it later on. And William, he was very religious, so he wanted to build something on the site to give penance to all the blood that had been shed. Hence the reason that this Benedictine monastery was built on this very site.
And so the town of Battle grew up around the abbey, around this.
Yes, yeah, where the Benedictine monks couldn't sustain themselves, they needed craftspeople, skilled labourers to come and help them establish community here, which is how the town grew up around the abbey. And they even built the church that you see in the background here as a place for the townspeople to worship.
And we'll be going into that church in a later instalment.
Every year, on the weekend nearest the 14th of October, English Heritage holds a reenactment of the Battle of Hastings here at site. It involves reenactors from not only England but Europe as well. We get people coming over from Normandy, and it attracts thousands of visitors from all over the world who come specifically to see the reenactment. It's a great event. Not only is there the battle, there's weaponry demonstrations and living history, so you get to see people as they were in 1066.
Well, there we are. That's it for today. It is now 10:56. And there she is, the lovely Liza, who was a struck terror in my heart when she started out. But now I'm feeling a little easier, darling. I'm looking a little easier. So until we come back tomorrow morning, it's Friday tomorrow, isn't it? Where the hell did the week go? But we'll come back tomorrow and we'll finish off. We'll have Melissa coming in from New York because if we think there's controversy in this country, then this guy DeSantis is making people very, very uneasy about the race in for the presidency in the United States, with some people who are full of common sense in many ways are saying perhaps they wouldn't mind Trump coming back if it means DeSantis will get his nose knocked out of joint. Anyway, we'll talk to Melissa about that tomorrow when she comes on, and of course we'll review the papers in the morning first thing. So until tomorrow, and I have my good friend Kevin Kramer, who comes in and tries to set us straight on the technology side of things. He's back. He's not been a well man, but now he's got that grin on his face again, where I know that, like her, she's going to start kicking me. Oh, I'm bruised. I'm bruised. Oh, dear, oh, dear, oh, dear. So, toodle, 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 pip.
Toodle pip.
None of it is true.